anxiety loves Riley just as much as joy does. And then when we did that, it suddenly worked so much better.
I think this is a very personal story.
7 ans après la sortie de Vice Versa, les aventures de Riley et ses émotions survoltées sont de retour dans une suite réjouissante.
Tristesse est dans la place.
Au festival d'animation d'Annecy, on a rencontré le réalisateur Kelsey Mann et le producteur Mark Nielsen pour discuter avec eux de la partie autobiographique du film et découvrir les 5 nouvelles émotions de Vice Versa 2.
So Kelsey was asked to start developing the story about four years ago, at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And I came and joined a little bit later. They paired us together, I think, partially because I was the associate producer on the first film.
This is the circle of sadness. Your job is to make sure that all the sadness stays inside of it.
So I have a relationship with the cast, and I was part of that story-making process.
Yeah, the other part I really enjoyed too is like I've never done this before, and Mark had done this, had produced before.
Yeah.
So leaning on his experience was incredibly helpful to me. I'm making a movie about anxiety for a reason. She can take over my console.
Orange? Who made the console orange?
Do I look orange?
I didn't touch it.
Orange is not my color.
Not me.
Hello?
In fact, I'll tell you something. You want to know a little secret? So when I first got asked to do this movie, I never thought I got an opportunity to do anything like this. And I have a story room, you know, and it was an empty room, right? And I was on day one. There's a little plaque that's outside my story room that I'm supposed to slide in, like a little thing that says, Kelsey Mann story room, right? And I'm like, well, what should I put in there? And I specifically chose a picture of me when I was like 10 years old. And I put that in there to remind myself, like, if I could go back and tell that little 10-year-old kid that I'm going to have the opportunity to make a movie at a place like Pixar and tell a story, that kid would lose his mind. And it reminded me to walk into that room with a sense of joy and not a sense of anxiety. Because if I walk in with a sense of joy making this movie, that's how I'm going to make a good movie. If I get nervous and if anxiety dries and when I walk in that room to be creative, I'm going to make a terrible movie.
Joy, I'm just curious, maybe I could
Thank you,
help.
not now.
Yeah.
That's not gonna haunt us for the rest of our lives at all.
I think this is a very personal story. When Kelsey first pitched me the idea of it being about anxiety and feeling that way in middle school, then you feel that you're alone in the way that you feel. And if this movie can make people understand and see that they aren't alone in feeling these things, I immediately connected with that. Yeah, you know, research is so important to us, and we want this movie to be authentic. And because we aren't 13 or girls, we thought it would be really good to see if we wanted teens to relate to this. So we assembled a group of 9 girls between the ages of 13 and 16 from all across America. None of them knew each other.
Yeah.
And we showed them every version of the movie that we made for a 3-year period. We probably showed them 9 or 10 versions of the movie. Yeah. And then we'd meet with them and have a note session over Zoom and get their thoughts on, like, did you connect with this? Is this how your friend groups are? Is this how you feel? Are these emotions that you're wrestling with? And they were incredibly helpful to let us know kind of when we were on track or when we were not.
I'm too gross to go anywhere ever again! Well, that's a preview of the next 10 years.
They all just came to the premiere in Hollywood just a couple days ago.
Monday.
It was, I can't tell you the joy I felt in seeing them all together, because we've done a lot of this remotely. They deserve it.
Yeah, they're like a brain trust to us.
Yeah,
just
they really are.
a young and hip brain trust.
Yeah. Anxiety was the one I think of immediately. I always pitched this movie as a takeover movie. I was influenced by the movie All About Eve, which is definitely a takeover film in its own right. And she was always the antagonist in the movie. I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting. That's different from the last movie. Somebody who was, you know, coming in and trying to take over and kick the other emotions out.
You can't just bottle us up.
We are suppressed emotions!
So our first versions, like Mark is saying, we do multiple versions of these movies. She was very antagonistic in the beginning, and she was a real villain, too heavy. Like, she was too mean, and we didn't like her. I'm like, I don't like watching I wanted the audience, when anxiety comes on screen, for them to go, oh, great, she's more time with anxiety. Let's spend time. I didn't want to spend more time of that version of anxiety. And we're like, what is going on here? It also doesn't feel true to the emotion. So we talked to a lot of our experts of like, why do we have anxiety? What's happening? And they're like, well, it's really there to try to protect you of like, unknown threats. So it's trying to help you. And we're like, okay, maybe we should switch this so that anxiety loves Riley just as much as joy does. And then when we did that, it suddenly worked so much better.
I can take notes, get coffee, manage your calendar, walk your dog, carry your things, watch you sleep.
Wow, you have a lot of energy.
I've seen so many times, so many movies, the mean girl kind of trope. When I was growing up, there was this kid that I knew in high school that I wish I was like. He was really talented at soccer. He played the saxophone. He was really funny. And on top of it, he was such a nice guy. And everybody loved him, including me. I wish that I was like him. And I'm like, I want a character like that in this movie. And that's why we invented Valentina. You know, and she's the captain of the hockey team. And she's everything that Riley wishes she was like. And on top of it, the last part that, you know, that would get her away from the mean girl is that she's really kind.
Look, we all have a job to do. I plan for the future.
You want to sit with us? These girls are so cool.
We can't let her know we're excited.
And it's almost worse, you know? Yeah. And we really, I can't tell you how many times we've talked about this with our crew, especially the women on the story team. We're like, it was very important that we don't do that because I've seen that a million times. And it would be really great to see something different. Because ultimately, this movie is about Riley feeling self-conscious.
Riley's officially a teenager now.
Which means more emotions. Anxiety.
Hello.
Ennui. Envy. And embarrassment.
Mark and I are fathers of boys and girls and of different ages. And there's very few movies we can all go to together and say, let's all go see that. And we're all excited to go because we're all going to get something out of it. So I really want to make sure that the story we're telling is everybody in the family, whether you're the kid, the parent, or the grandparent, that you can relate to this movie in some sort of way. Those are my favorite movies.
Konbini!